Guys, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk to you. Hello. We've made it to episode 8. I can't believe it. I'm still kind of shocked that we are here. But as I start out I feel like every video, I'm excited again. And I feel like I'm going to talk faster than usual because we have 3 films to get through today. I just want to give you a preview on what's to come. 10 episodes in total since this is 8. Next week, it will be my last official video reviewing a film before the awards, which will be Licorice Pizza. And then the last episode will premiere probably the Monday after the awards with like a recap and a debrief. So today we have to get through 3 films that are centered on the Oscar nominees for Best Actress. Okay, so we have Parallel Mothers, which stars Penelope Cruz, so nominated for Best Actress. We have The Eyes of Tammy Faye, starring Jessica Chastain, also nominated for Best Actress. And we have The Lost Daughter, starring Olivia Coleman. You're getting the trend, also nominated for Best Actress. So I'm going to go in that order, all right? The Eyes of Tammy Faye I watched about 2 weeks ago, and The Lost Daughter and Parallel Mothers I actually watched today. So they're fresh in my mind, and I have a lot to say about them. And Parallel Mothers I just watched about like an hour ago. So Parallel Mothers. First, we're going to start off with the percentages and the Rotten Tomatoes, etc., IMDb ratings, and then I'm going to give you my rating. Okay, so Parallel Mothers, the most popular out of these 3 from the critics. 7.1 on IMDb and a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics giving it on average about an 86%. Very well liked. Roger Ebert loved it. It's like Variety magazine covered it, Vanity Fair. Very well loved. I gave it a 3.5. I think the acting was phenomenal, but for me, there was a little bit of a disconnect between what was framing the film and the melodrama throughout. So I see what the director was trying to do, but for me, it fell a little flat and slow. So I was watching it kind of in between working. So the 2-hour movie became like 4 to 5 because I had to pause it a lot. So I don't know if part of me could be kind of influenced by that stopping and starting. But I wasn't as invested in it, I feel, as the other 2 that I'm going to review. So I give it a 3.5. I can see why Penelope was nominated. I can. She has so much emotion in her style, in her eyes. And I guess this is the 8th film she's worked on with this director. I should make note that this is a Spanish film. I watched it with subtitles. And it's by director Pedro Almodovar. And I guess he and Penelope have kind of a thing like a Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio. Haven't mentioned Leo in a while, guys. Welcome. A kind of a deal where they have a partnership. So he's known for his melodrama. He's known for highlighting Spain with all its colors, and he's known for choosing magnificent music to go with it. And I felt that. The score is beautiful here. Without being too domineering and overpowering, it sets the tone very well. And it makes the acting, even though some of the subject line is a little bit melodramatic, the music and the beauty of the cinematography around you kind of tone down the melodrama, and it makes it more serious. So I'll give you a quick so spoiler alert, if you are wanting to watch this film and you don't want anything spoiled, I would pause or fast forward and watch after, because I'll give a few things away. It is crazy. It felt like a soap opera in the fact that 2 women, I'll give you the 2-minute version, 2 women meet in a maternity ward. They are both giving birth to babies. They both have baby girls. They form a bond and a friendship in the hospital. One is a lot older than the other. One's like, I would say 38, and the other looks like they actually say she's a minor, so I think she's like 17. They both have daughters. The older woman, they both got pregnant by accident. The older woman is happy because she's nearing 40 and she wanted a child. And the younger girl, which we find out later in the film, was raped by several men, and her pregnancy was a result of that. So she was not even sure who the father was. And so her mother is helping take care of her, but her mother wants to be like a Broadway actress, and her mom is very absent. So they form this bond and they kind of help each other. Both of the babies have something wrong with them when they're born. Nothing major, like low blood sugar. I forget what the other baby's issue was, but they are put in a an observation room. So flash forward maybe 2 months later. Sorry, this is going to be way too long, so I have to go faster. The long and short of it, the babies were switched at birth. And we find out because Penelope Cruz's child looks nothing like her or the dad. And she finds out by doing a DNA test that it's not her child. She can only assume that the babies were switched in the observation room, but she does not tell the other mother, fearing that, I don't know, there will be a legal process, etc. Tragically and ironically, we find out that her baby dies of a random, like no symptoms, just randomly in its sleep one night. So she knows that her baby is dead, and she knows that this other baby is this other woman's, and she's petrified to tell her because she doesn't want the baby taken from her. Guys, it gets all kinds of crazy where they meet up again, they help each other. The woman whose baby is still alive becomes the live-in nanny for Penelope Cruz, and they form this bond and this kinship, and you're thinking, well, it's like they're both the mothers. One was nurturing and one was nature. But it all gets a little bit even more of a layer when they start to have a romantic relationship. Yes, the mothers. Mind blown. So I don't know if this is just a coping mechanism when Penelope might be feeling like this way we can both have ties to the baby. She finally tells the mother after another probably year, and the mother, the real mother of the baby, freaks out, leaves, etc., takes the baby. And this is where it's not okay for me. And if it wasn't great acting, where I probably would have rated it lower. The film is framed by Penelope trying to put her great-grandfather to rest. I know that sounds so out of the blue. I appreciate this from the director. He's exploring the Spanish Civil War. And Penelope, her character, Janice, in the film, her grandfather was buried in an unmarked grave, which a lot of men at that time were taken from their homes, made to march out of their homes, hands tied with barbed wire, and were just killed and left for dead in these unmarked graves. And the director tells this so sensitively. And from the beginning, we know that Penelope wants to find her great-grandfather. She hires an archaeologist, and they do a dig, and there's all this research involved. And that's who the baby's father is. The baby ends up dying. He's actually the man on this expedition. So we have this framed, and we're not sure how we're going to come back to it. And that's maybe 10 minutes of the film. And we know, and the only thing I'm thinking is, okay, that was a story to tell us how she met the father of her child, right? No, we don't revisit that until the final maybe 20 minutes of the film, where we just left it as Penelope and the mother of the baby who's still alive just split up. And we don't know, are they going to get back together romantically? Are they going to like share custody of this child? We immediately have Penelope reconnecting with the father of her child who has passed. And they go back to this like excavation mode of finding the unmarked grave, and they talk to her aunts and her grandmother. I think it might be an aunt. I think her great-grandmother has passed. Her great-grandmother has passed, but I think her grandmother has even passed, and we know her mother has passed. So we're framed by all of a sudden at the end, out of the blue, guys, all of a sudden Penelope tells the other woman, "Oh, I'm 3 months pregnant with his baby," and she seems suddenly okay with it. There's not even like a discussion, and I get that. I know I'm not naive, to think like, oh, everything has to be spelled out for you in a movie. I'm completely capable of reading between the lines. But here, it just felt like I was missing a scene. I actually rewinded it and thought I missed something because it did not make sense to me that we were so forcefully thrown back into the story of the Spanish Civil War, which is beautiful in and of itself. And I felt like the importance of that should have been woven throughout the entire plot, the entire film. And then it's just at the end, you have this understanding of like, she's going to be with the man. Oh, by the way, he was married when they had the child. So this gets even more soapy. And his wife was dying of cancer, and his wife was cured of cancer, but now they split up. So now he's fully with Penelope, having a child. But they made it with the assumption that she would still be friends good friends with the other woman and be in the child's life in some way. So what the director was trying to say, like this bond between women through generations, because a lot of it was focused on women, even though they were trying to find the great-grandfather, but it was lacking for me. I didn't see that. I didn't see it as clearly as I now, after reading articles and kind of dwelling on it a little, I see what that was. But for me, it was disjointed. There were 2 parts to it that did not connect. So a 3.5, but great acting. I'll tell you who I think should win at the end, because then I will have watched all of the nominees for Best Actress. So for sake of time, we will move on to the next one. So my next film is The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which I loved. And I think you knew this was not on my original list until I knew that Jessica was nominated for Best Actress, but I didn't think I'd have time. And one night I just wasn't really feeling watching one of the nominees, and Tig and I were like, we should watch this, because we grew up we grew up Baptist, and we are strong in our faith, but we knew this story of Jim and Tammy Baker, evangelists, and who if you know the story, Jim Baker, it turns out that he's basically embezzling all money that was supposed to be for the church and for good, and he's living his life in a mansion, and Tammy Faye, his wife, who is involved in this and likes nice things and expensive things, but isn't as aware of what Jim is doing behind the scenes, and had a huge following of people that loved her even after Jim, her husband, ended up in jail. Jessica here is brilliant. I'll say Andrew Garfield is brilliant as Jim too, even though I hated to see him like as a bad guy. But Jessica, and I really think she's one of the top 2 to win this award, because she plays Tammy Faye at different ages of her life, like young 20s all the way until near her death in the 60s. And the costumes, like, she embodies the character, where sometimes you don't even recognize that it's her, but in a really well done way. She has the accent down pat, and just like kind of like a whiny, she has a Betty Boop voice, which they reference in the film. I thought the film was so well done. I was never bored. It really gave us a snapshot into their life at the time. I thought the sets were great. I think the directing, the casting choices were on point. I would say I would probably give it a 4. And in researching comparing these 3 films against each other, this one was the most liked from audiences, but the least liked from critics. So it does have a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb, but it has like a 55% from critics. But it's really well liked from audiences. And I think it's just because the actors that we love, and it's like delving into, this is not talked about a lot. Anything like evangelism is not talked about a lot. I mean, they mentioned Jerry Falwell, who is the founder of Liberty University in Virginia. They mention the founder of the 700 Club, and the kind of the dynamic behind the scenes of, like, you know, you're thinking this is all in the name of God-fearing people and helping others. I think it's under the radar. I'm so glad Jessica was noticed for this, because the film isn't nominated for anything else. I could be wrong. I will research this later. But I think it's just an exploration into a real life event that not many people know about. And of course, I found myself afterwards just like Googling voraciously and, you know, what was real, what was not. They took a lot of liberties, but a lot of it is based on truth. And it's weird because of these 3, I was most excited about it, but I'm finding that when I come to talk about it, I have the least to say about this one. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I will stick with my 4 because it kept my interest and made me want to research and read a lot about it afterwards. I think you should watch. It is available to rent almost everywhere now. And I just think you'll do a lot of Googling after. All right, so the last film we'll talk about today is The Lost Daughter with Olivia Coleman. This is a Netflix film. I've been wanting to watch this one before I even knew it was Oscar nominated. It did come out, I think it was back around Christmas time. This one, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and 6.7 out of 10. Sorry for the sirens in the back. 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. But critics loved it, gave it an 86%. Audiences don't seem like they're that thrilled with it. I liked it because I love the actress. I really like Olivia Coleman. Who was a standout to me, and also she is nominated for Best Supporting Actress, was Jessie Buckley, who plays Olivia Coleman at a younger age. I thought she mirrored her so well. Like, Olivia Coleman in true life and in the film is playing a 48-year-old, and Jessie, her counterpart, is playing like her at 25. So this, for me, I will give it a 4 based on interest that it left me and acting. Dakota Johnson is in this. She has a pretty small role, and it doesn't seem like it fits her. Really, it was kind of a weird role for me. But I was surprised to see Ed Harris, actually, and Peter Sarsgaard was in it too. So some big names in here. And like, side note, Ed Harris looked so much older. Like, I don't know, but he's a great actor. Phenomenal cast. Do I think Olivia should always be nominated? Yes, because I just feel like she can do no wrong. Like, she can do nothing wrong. But that being said, I don't feel like anything was a standout here. She's playing a very emotional part. To give you a synopsis, she is a mother of 2, and she got pregnant when she was like 24. So she had 2 girls, about 3 years in between them. And she's a career woman. She's a professor of, I think it's classical literature, and she is very focused on different languages, French especially, but some Greek as well. So she translates like poetry, and she gives talks at conferences and writes papers and things. And she always has headphones in not the entire, but a lot of the film, like translating, and she teaches her girls some different language as well. But the whole time we're seeing how she's struggling. She's stuck between like career and motherhood, and you can tell she does not appreciate or really, she doesn't dive in full force with motherhood. There's this line at the beginning where she meets a pregnant woman on the beach, and she tells her that, she said, motherhood is a crushing responsibility. Bye. And then walks away. And the woman's like, great, thanks for telling me that. I'm literally 7 months pregnant. So she admits throughout the film, like, she was a bad mother. She admits that she says she's an unnatural mother. There was a point where she has an affair with a man, and she leaves her husband and she leaves her kids when they are, I think she said 4 and 7, and she leaves them with her mother and her husband, and she does not see them for 3 years. She's not specific or whether or not she stays with the man she had an affair with, but she goes out and she like lives her life and has her career, and she admits to someone who asked that it was the best time in her life. So there's that. But the whole movie was beautifully done because she's older and she's on this vacation on her own, and she's seeing this other mother, Dakota Johnson, and she's seeing herself, and the wife, Dakota Johnson here, looks like she's struggling as well, and Olivia is remembering all of like the hurt and the frustration she had with her kids while she's on vacation. And you can tell she has a lot of guilt, and you can tell she has like all these fainting spells. So when she gets very overwhelmed and the guilt really creeps in, she'll pass out, she'll faint. And she doesn't really tell anybody. She keeps it very quiet. But the parallel between her and Dakota is nice. It was obvious without being like cliche or too obvious. I thought it was well done. There is a scene where when she is younger, Olivia Coleman's character has this baby doll that she gives her daughter, and her daughter actually was kind of like a wild child and not the best behaved, and they didn't get along that well. And she really draws with marker all over Olivia Coleman's special doll from childhood and breaks like one of her arms. And Olivia gets so mad and says she ruins it. She throws the doll out like a 40-story apartment building, and the doll completely gets like crashed out the window and destroyed. And when she's on vacation, when she's older and she sees Dakota Johnson, her daughter actually has a doll that looks very much like her doll that her child destroyed, and she ends up stealing this doll. And Dakota Johnson and her family are looking for it the entire vacation. Meanwhile, Olivia Coleman has this doll in a cabinet in her kitchen, and obviously psychological, like it's very therapeutic for her. She sleeps with the doll and she's like caring for it like it's her own. And the woman, Dakota, finds out at the end and she's like, you are crazy. Why would you do this? And she literally says, I'm an unnatural mother. I don't know why I did it. And stabs her with a knitting needle, very, very thin, but that was crazy. And you're probably thinking like, what the heck? This just got dark. Because it did. That shocked me. There's not really a denouement, if you will, here. I feel that there's closure at the end where she's sitting on the beach and she calls her daughter, and her daughter's actually with her other sibling, and they talk, and she seems very invested in her children's lives. It's the last scene on the beach, and the kids always would ask her when she peeled fruit or peeled oranges, she'd peel it off in one swoop. She hated little broken pieces of, say, orange. And the kids would always say, Mommy, make the snake, like, shave the orange, right? So the last scene, she's on the phone with her kids and she's peeling the orange. And you get this sense of, like, maybe there will be time for her to make up for those 3 years or her frustration in being a mother. She still loves them. Like, there's always room for, for growth and improvement. But I thought it was really nice to show a side of motherhood that really isn't showcased often, like the frustrations with it, the feeling of denying yourself and what are the sacrifices you have to make for your children. And she did that, and she wasn't true to herself, and that stifled her and made her feel awful. And then when she left and did kind of indulge in her own, career, what she wanted to do, that sense of guilt not only affected her then, but now years later. So you can read into that what you will. I think you could go a lot of directions for what you think the main message of that would be. And I'm sorry, I did not tell you who the director of this one was. Oh my gosh, hello! I knew this. Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal's sister. So good. The directing I thought was great. I loved, there's a lot of flashback scenes, obviously, because we see Maggie when she's younger. It was so well done that it was like seamless. Like you were ushered into a flashback without it being too jarring or like jolting you into another scene. And they did it where sometimes like Olivia was wistfully looking off into the horizon, and like that scene would come, or other times it would just be right there, and then it would be a flash forward. So the way they did it, I thought, was unique and it had its own flair to it. It wasn't predictable. I wish I got nominated for more things. I mean, Best Supporting Actress and Best Actress is a pretty big deal, but I thought the music was great. The music compared to all of three of these films, actually, that was stuck in my head a lot. The main theme is really repetitive, but really good. So yeah, I would give that a 4. So Tammy Faye, The Lost Daughter, a 4, Parallel Mothers, a 3.5. Overall, really solid. I'll tell you, so those 3 are nominated, plus Kristen Stewart for Spencer and Nicole Kidman for being the Ricardos. For me, this is not for necessarily what critics think. For me, it would be between Kristen Stewart and Jessica Chastain. I think Penelope Cruz and Olivia Coleman are wonderful, and like they are great actresses, hands down. And the roles they played, both centered on motherhood, right? Beautifully acted, emotion in just the right points. But something about Jessica and Kristen, and maybe it's weird. My name is Jessica Kristen. Okay, sorry. Something about Kristen Stewart and Jessica Chastain. Maybe because they're embodying real life people, Princess Diana, right? And Tammy Faye, that for me, in my mind, is a step up because they really have to get out of themselves and portray this other person. Like sometimes, as much as I love Olivia Coleman, I feel like it's Olivia Coleman. It isn't really an actor. It's kind of how I felt about Will Smith, right? It's like, I'm still thinking that it's you. And I find you're almost the same way in everything you do, which sounds like a critique and a judgment, even though I love her. And that you're probably wondering, well, what about Nicole Kidman? She also played a real person. She played Lucille Ball. For me, that was too much the other way. It was too corny. It was too acting. I didn't see her as Lucy. I saw her as like, oh, you're playing Lucy. Whereas Kristen and Jessica, they were Tammy Faye. They were Princess Diana for me. So those are my top two. I haven't decided who I think will win yet. I'll tell you that in my next video because by that time I will have to have my ballot filled out and I cannot change it until we talk again on that Monday. But that's it for me today, guys. This is a long one. Thanks for sticking around. Next week, hopefully will be Wednesday or Thursday, I'll release my predictions and reviewing the final one, which is Licorice Pizza. I'm going to try my best to watch Cyrano and House of Gucci before then too. And if I do, I'll give you like a quick 1 to 2 minute kind of background or my thoughts on those. All right. I love you as usual. Take care. The awards are almost here. Oh, and also look up the BAFTA and the Critics' Choice Awards because Power of the Dog blew a lot of people out of the water and CODA is getting a lot too. So it's time. Award season is here.